There are other spirits of the wild? Hello everyone, I'm Morali and welcome to another video aiming to explore the deep lore of the Guild Wars universe. Today I would like to talk about the spirits of the wild. More specifically, I would like to address some more obscure things in the field of the spirits. I recently made part 3 of my animal facts and Easter eggs videos, and within that I talked a little bit about the spirits of the wild. As I did research for the aforementioned video, I came across an interesting wiki page named the Fire Spirit. So, what is the Fire Spirit, and how does it tie into the spirits of the wild, and more generally, the Norn lore? Before I answer that and more, really quick, if you like videos like this and haven't subscribed to the channel, I would really appreciate it. Also, check out my other lore related videos on my channel. Also, there will be some story spoilers going forward, so just be warned. With all that out of the way, let's get right into it. Before we talk about what other spirits exist, let's discuss the spirits of the wild to better help us understand exactly what the spirit of fire is. As per the wiki page, the spirits of the wild are the Norn's spirit guides. Unlike the 6 human gods, the spirits do not represent broad-minded concepts like war or nature, but instead embody all the complex virtues and vices of the animals they represent. For anyone that has played the game, and more specifically has played a Norn, this much is pretty simple. And according to Scold, every creature on Tyria has a respective associated spirit of the wild, meaning that there is a spirit of spider for spiders, a spirit of snake for snakes, even a spirit of rat for rats, and so on. That in and of itself is a pretty compelling concept, and I have talked about this before in my Season 6 and Expansion 4 video, where I said I would really love to see more exotic spirits of the wild, and not just the ones we find in the Shiver Peak Mountains. The spirits of the wild that we know are also sentient. Multiple times throughout the story have we seen characters have full-on conversations with the spirits. The spirits have a will of their own, and their agenda seems to be guides or aids of sorts, more specifically for the Norn, as they seem very invested in the Norn people, and in turn the Norn revere these spirits not as gods or leaders, but as what they are, spirit guides. Next up, let's talk a little about the Kodan. Why are the Kodan important here, you might ask? Well, the Kodan and Norn people have an interesting connection. Throughout the span of the franchise, we have seen and heard of hints that the Norn used to actually be a tribe of Kodan that left the Kodan homelands during the Dragon Storm, which was a blizzard that occurred when Jormag last awoke on Tyria. The Kodan people believe that eventually said tribe had devolved into the Norn race because they stepped further away from Koda. This gives us a unique connection between the Kodan and Norn. The Kodan, being a spiritual race, also acknowledge the existence of the spirits of the wild, more so than other major races of Tyria beside the Norn, of course. Now that we know what the spirits of the wild are, and we have a connection between Norn and Kodan, let's talk about the Fire Spirit. In Season 3, when we venture into Bitterfrost Frontier, we meet the tribe of Sorrow's Eclipse that anchored above Gulupa Deeps, a Quaggan village. Here we are introduced to Koda's Flame, the Flamebearers, and the Braziers of Koda. All of these are tied to the Fire Spirit. Now that's a lot of things to talk about, so here's the simple breakdown. Koda's Flame are the torches one can use to carry the flame from brazier to brazier. The Flamebearers are the protectors of said braziers, and are also in charge of teaching new generations of Flamebearers. Pretty simple, right? Well, it gets a little deeper once we actually explore what this fire that we spread throughout the map actually is. Listening to the Flamebearers and their stories, it actually turns out that this fire and the braziers were a gift to the Kodan people after the Fire Spirit left Tyria. So what's the story with this Fire Spirit? Let's look at what the Kodan Flamebearers tell us about the spirit.
In the beginning, the Ancient One told the first Kodan to watch and learn, protect and guide the world's spirits.
Is this the part about Quaggan?
No, hush, little apprentice. As I was saying, some Kodan guided the spirits of stone, others the spirits of water, of plants, and birds, and creeping things.
Like Quaggan?
From Koda's eye, our tribe accepted the spirit of fire. Small and meek, it could only go where the Kodan carried it.
Like Quaggan?
As we carried the spirit, it grew in size and speed. Suddenly, it carried itself spreading throughout the world. Go now. Carry the spirit of fire as my forebears did. Watch and learn how it grows larger and faster. Do you know why the first Kodan stood on hind legs to talk?
Kogan forgot.
To ask why. Why is there an endless cycle of creation and destruction? Why do we live if we're only to die?
Kogan lives to eat fish.
And the fire lives to eat all living things. We Kodan learned much about destruction and death from fire. Fire made other spirits sad, and Koda was not pleased. He demanded that we guide the spirit, teach it where to go.
Where did you send it?
To the things that needed balance. Go now. Teach the fire to balance the corrupted ones. In our eagerness to understand, the Kodan have, on occasion, failed to understand.
Kogan misunderstands on occasion too.
When Koda called, we taught the spirit of fire what to destroy. Then, we suffered Koda's rage.
Wait! Kogan doesn't understand!
After the time of great trial, the Kodan realized that we were also charged with teaching fire about creation. The Kodan then taught the spirit life. We gave fire a home in our sanctuaries. It learned to warm us.
And warm Kodan's food.
Go now. Teach the fire to give warmth, and to shelter you from the storm. After a great many years passed, the spirit of fire no longer needed the Kodan to survive.
Why?
Because the fire had learned all it could by Koda's grace. It had become wise.
But why?
By Koda's profound wisdom, the Kodan would teach the spirits, so in turn, spirits could teach the Kodan about harmony.
But why?
Because the flame is a pure form of harmony. A fulcrum between creation and destruction, where all living things exist.
But why?
Because that is Koda's will. All things exist by Koda's grace. Go now, watch, and learn how the flame gives and takes. After many years of harmony, the spirit of fire grew old, and the time came for it to leave this world.
No.
But in its absence, its essence lives on. Our sanctuary holds the last remaining flame begot by the spirit itself. When the time comes to return to Koda, our tribe's essence will also live on. In anyone who carries this sacred fire.
Oh, this is the part about Kogan.
Yes. Like the flame, our tribe has offered to shelter and share with any who would do the same. Like the Quagans.
Ooh.
Go, knowing the ultimate wisdom of Koda's flame. Before your own flame dies, may you breathe much life into the world.
So it seems that the Kodan people were put in charge of teaching this fire spirit about using its powers in more ways than just destruction. Now, we do have conflicting info on whether or not this spirit really is sentient, but in order for it to learn and even communicate with the Kodan people, there had to be some kind of sentience within the spirit. All of this also seems to point towards the spirit having some kind of physical form, because how else would the Kodan people know that the spirit had left Tyria behind? We now know about the fire spirit, but I did mention other spirits, meaning multiple. So what else do we know? Well, to find out more about these other spirits, we actually have to travel 250 years into the past. In Guild Wars 1, during the Eye of the North expansion, we come across a Norn named Egil Fireteller. He isn't a super important character in the story, but if you visit him outside of the story instance, you can actually have him tell you a story. He talks about the spirits of the wild like raven, owl, wolf, worm, and ox, and how the Norn culture reviews these spirits. More interestingly though, he talks about more hostile, even malicious spirits that exist in the world, those being the spirits of the mountains, seasons, fire, and darkness. And he even talks about how the animal spirits of the wild are their allies against these foes. That, combined with what we know about the fire spirit, is such a riveting concept. How could this info impact the story going forward after the End of Dragon's story? Let's go to the final and my favorite part of this video, theories. So, if we think about how the fire spirit left Tyria and compare it to other beings that left Tyria, aka the gods, and the reason as to why they left, which was the struggle with the elder dragons, we could perhaps theorize that the spirit left because of the same reason. What about the spirits of the mountains, seasons, and darkness? Did they perhaps leave Tyria as well, as to not get into conflict with the elder dragons? Now let's take this thought even further. Not only is there a chance for the gods to return to Tyria, but also these spirits. And if they are as malicious as Egil tells us, then maybe we could see conflict arise there. Maybe these other spirits are not as willing to learn as the fire spirit was, and are only out to bring destruction to the world. Could we perhaps have to deal with these more primal powers that seem to exist everywhere in this world? There's a lot of ideas that could come from this as well. As the Kodan have a whole tribe that is dedicated to preserving this fire that the fire spirit left behind, we could potentially see some tribes or even whole races take a bow to these other spirits as they return to Tyria, creating new factions for the commander to deal with. It's definitely a fascinating idea. Well, that's pretty much it for me for today. Obviously, you can take this idea a million different ways and write great stories about this, so let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Also, I would really appreciate a like if you enjoyed this video, and let me know what other fun lore stuff you would like to see me theorize about. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, I'll see you then. Bye guys!